Are you ready to unlock your potential? Ready to leverage your life experience? Primed for reinvention? Welcome to Keys to Change with Shelly Henderson, your roadmap to a fulfilling second act in the world of real estate.
Hi, welcome to my first episode of Keys to Change. My guest today is Ugo Arinzeh, an accomplished property consultant, real estate educator, and founder of the London-based Onyx property team. Ugo brings a wealth of expertise and a unique perspective, having lived and worked in Nigeria, the United States, and the UK. Her passion for empowering women, mentoring future leaders, and delivering exceptional client service has made her a trailblazer in the real estate industry and beyond. Welcome, Ugo, to the show.
I am so excited to be here. Thanks for having me, Shelly.
All the way from London. Wow. And I was just talking to Joe, my producer, before you came on, and asked him if he had been to London, and he hasn't either. I've never been to London. And now I have even more of an excuse to come and meet you.
Please do come and we will show you a great time. It's a great city.
Thank you. I look forward to that. So let's talk about your journey, how you ended up in London. Can you tell us about that first?
Sure. I grew up in New Jersey, so I'm a Jersey girl. I did get an undergrad degree at Rutgers and an MBA in finance at NYU. And then we were just talking about with my MBA degree, I pursued investment banking and got recruited down to Charlotte, North Carolina. So I was with Bank of America Merrill Lynch my entire banking career and loved it. It was in the real estate investment banking group. So got to underwrite large loans to large owners of real estate, REITs, opportunity funds, hotel companies, golf course companies, you name it. And I got to travel across the country, loved it. Stayed with the bank for over 10 years, eventually moved to Washington, D.C. And after about 12 years, got really along the way, I started buying property for myself. So really enjoyed it. Did some flips, started taking some interior design classes, really enjoyed that. And after about 10 years with the bank, 12 years, I was kind of ready to do something different and got a very unique opportunity. Got connected with an architectural firm based in London. And the role was for a CFO, finance director, to come help them with their finances here in London. And that's what got me to London. Hit the ground loving London. And one of the things I've really noticed was there's some big differences between how real estate is done in the US and versus the UK. And after working with him for a couple of years, I saw a gap in the market and a real opportunity to work with buyers and people relocating to London, and decided to launch my own real estate practice as a real estate agent, working with international clients, buying property in London. So that's kind of how I journeyed and twists and turns got to London.
That is just incredible, because I have so much more respect for you, even because I've lived in Charlotte since I was in elementary school, and I'm just now, in this season of life, trying to be more adventuresome. So the fact that you took a leap of faith and jumped on that opportunity to try London and it worked, that's just a story in itself. So good for you for starting from scratch and, making that happen. And I'm very curious to know, what was your passion? Or you went from finance to real estate, which is kind of sort of similar, but what made you have that leap of faith, if you will, to go from one to the other? I know, real estate it is what it is. It's consistent. We've done the same thing. My husband and I have, we flipped a couple of properties, but we are investors with our own portfolio of rental properties. And then our business is managing rental properties. So did you just think of that? Or do you have a background in that? Does your family do that? Or just with your finance, were you able to see that there was a need? Because I'm trying to encourage people out here, especially women, that you can do this. It's not as hard as what the media or, other people might tell you. So let's talk about that for a minute.
Yeah, I love that you picked that up. So I think it helped that I was in real estate finance, right? So in within the bank, they carved real estate out as a separate group specifically because it was like non-operating. So it just had a different cash flow mechanism than, say, a traditional manufacturing firm or operating company. So it's separated out. And along the way, yes, I got to underwrite real estate assets, whether it was offices, as I said, golf courses, warehouses, multifamily buildings. So really got a sense of the aspect of rental income covering expenses. It is, I think most of us can understand real estate from a fundamental level. It's obviously housing. Somebody pays you rent, it covers your mortgage, and off you go. I think my evolution became I went from, buying in Charlotte. I mentioned I was in Charlotte, buying a townhouse that was already built. So when I moved to DC, I was looking to own a property. What I was seeing didn't really suit. DC is an older town, so there were older row houses. But I think the fundamentals for me, because of my banking background, I remember being very distinct in what I was looking for. So I wanted a property that had potentially a lower unit, so separate unit to generate cash flow. I had been taking some. I was quite interested in fixer uppers, so I could design it and fix it myself, and so saw the value in that. Something that was kind of in a new and up and coming neighborhood, so I could see that trend line working in my favor. And DC row houses, particularly, have the opportunity, quite a few of them, to have driveway space. So I remember being very distinct about these were real amenities that would be appealing, and a 10-minute walk to a tube station metro. And DC has a metro system, but it's not prolific, but I knew that that was a good thing. So yeah, so I kind of looked, I recognized that real estate at the end of the day is a supply and demand, like so many things are, but you can get your head around it, right? And my banking role helped me understand that everything that happens actually in the economy ultimately impacts real estate, right? If there's jobs happening, jobs creation, then that means there's going to be more demand. If there's too much supply, then rental rates might be going down. But it's simple enough, but you understand the mechanisms, and just physically, it's a visual asset, right? It's housing, it's a roof over your head. And so when I bought my a house, it was a massive house and needed work. I ended up kicking out a couple of contractors and ended up having to literally become my own general contractor. And I love that. I really love that experience. It was stressful, but I had a friend who was super supportive. I ended up, picking tile myself, learning how to lay tile and paint and sew curtains. And just all of that at the end of the day created a home that I was super excited about, loved it, created that separate basement unit. It became a cash flowing asset and generating passive income. So I had seen the technical aspects of real estate from a large corporate side, but now I from a one-off practical and saw tremendous value in it.
And isn't it a wonderful thing? Because not only are you taking something and taking something from nothing basically and turning it into something and starting from the ground up. And what I found in the industry, I'm not a realtor, but I'm an investor, and I can look at the big picture. And a lot of people can't do that. When a lot of people are looking to buy a property and to live in it themselves, especially, they want something it's already has the upgrades and it's ready to go. But what I think people should understand is, first of all, you never want to buy the largest home and you never want to buy the nicest home, correct? Would you say? Yeah.
Yeah, because I think that's where you can add real value. I mean, that
Yes.
sweat equity is real, right? So I
Yeah.
literally, own my flat in London. It was a 2-bedroom, 1 bathroom. And again, that's the downsizing and moving from 3,500 square feet in DC to like 700 square feet here. But you see still the same um, dynamics apply. So I bought this flat because it had planning permission to allow me to go up into the loft space. So again, I saw that ability and I have converted it from a 2-bedroom, 1 bath to a 3-bedroom, 2 bath and added a ton of value. It wasn't easy, but the person who can see that opportunity,
Yeah.
you will typically be rewarded for it. And that's, I think, again, the fundamentals of real estate that continue to make sense. But in 2008, we saw that get all wobbly because people overextended themselves. I think they really went off the deep end in terms of over leveraging and losing sight of the fundamentals. But if you stick to the fundamentals, it will prove out, I think.
Well, I do too. And, a couple of things that you might not be aware of, and you might. I was doing some research for a blog that I was writing this week. And interestingly enough, to date, there are more women that own single family homes than men right now. And I was like, wow, that was such an interesting fact.
Yeah.
So I think more women like us are, trying to dip their toe in the water, so to speak. And what would you say is something, if somebody is listening and they're like, I don't have time for this. I don't have the money. So many people say, oh, I don't have the time. I don't have the money. I don't have, I don't know how. But we all have the same 24 hours in a day. And what would you say to the person listening that might want to be an investor or might want to buy a piece of real estate, but they don't have the time or the money? What would you say?
Well, I think you have to, again, look at the bigger picture. And, they say you have to have a why that's big enough. So I think if you can look at your situation and say, hey, look, are you happy in what you're doing? And, so many jobs, Shelly, are physically reliant on you, right? If you do not work, you do not get paid, period, end of story. Whereas real estate is one of the fundamentals I love about it is it's supposed to be a source of passive income, right? So if you're doing it right and renting it out, as you're earning money and yet you're not living, breathing it every single day. Now, yes, you should set money aside. Yes, you have a property manager. You should look, and real estate is a living, breathing thing. So don't think you can take every bit of your rental income and just, spend it, set it
Right.
aside. So that's number one. I love that it's a passive income generating source. Number one. Number two, I cannot think of any other asset class that will lend you money to control an asset. Nobody's loaning you to go buy stocks or bonds. So the fundamentals of real estate mean that somebody is typically, a bank or finance company going to loan you 25, a loan to value of 60, 70%, right? So you come up with 10, 15, 25% of the total cost and the bank makes up the rest. Yet you get all the upside. So again, think about that return on investment. Most places in the US, you can come in at a relatively low price point. So maybe it's not where you live. I, grew up in Jersey, DC. These are high value places.
Yes.
But I know affordability in a North Carolina or Missouri might be more affordable. You have to do your homework. So you absolutely need to connect up with, say, a real estate agent or somebody who's highly referred. Get on the ground, kick the tires for yourself. But there are places where you can buy homes at 50,000 or less. But again, you have to look, is there enough demand in the economy, right? So what is driving that demand? Is there schools? Is there universities? Are there good jobs? Is the trend line moving forward, right? Versus backwards. And if you're doing that homework, ask a ton of questions. Now with the internet, there's so many places you can learn things. Invest in it. Don't jump in because your best friend did it or your friend's mother, but do your homework. And I really believe there's opportunities to come in at different price points and see what that asset can do for you in terms of building your net worth, not just income, but your net worth, which is what we all should be thinking about.
Absolutely. And think long term, which leads me to ask you, I'm very interested in your buyer agency academy. And what a wonderful thing. Maybe I should start that here in Charlotte. So tell us all about that, because that
Yeah,
sounds golden.
thank you. No, and I think you touched on a couple things. When I got to London, again, maybe with my background, I noticed a gap in the market. So being American, and having bought and sold property in the States, I was used to working with buying agents. And, agents in America are typically licensed, and you have an agent representing the buyer and one representing the seller. That is not the norm here in the UK. In the UK, you're literally left on your own as a buyer or somebody relocating to navigate the portals, these online portals. So let's say you're looking in Notting Hill for £1 million, you search, a ton of properties come up. You have to approach each one of those sales agents to get you in to see the property. And then ultimately, you're trying to negotiate and ask questions from an agent that works for the seller. So that literally blew my mind, right? Like, people are left to buy the most expensive asset of their life on their own. So again, given my background, having bought and sold and having the finance background, I was like, wait, there's an opportunity here, because as a buying agent, I could represent buyers. London was a very international global city. Lots of Americans are buying here, lots of international. So what if I could offer my services as a buying agent to look after buyers and help them navigate, educate them, figure out the city. I absolutely love living here. I say I'm a streetwalker in the nicest way possible, and help our clients find the right property. So with that, and 10 years on now, I've been doing this for 10 years through our consultancy Onyx property team. I really fundamentally believe, and have been validated, that people will pay for that service. Okay. My buyers hire me, they retain me, they pay an upfront fee, they sign an agreement. So you're really working with committed buyers or, renters relocating who believe in the value you offer. And our testimonials validate that people say, I couldn't have done this on our own. We could have never figured this out. We couldn't, figured out which neighborhood. You helped us see something we didn't see. So Shelly, I think it starts with recognizing the value that you bring, as in everything, right? Your value proposition. And so I think I was uniquely qualified as an American living here to identify it, but then also saw that people would pay, not just the wealthy, so high net worth clients. We work with a lot of high net worth clients, but we work with entry level people. I mean, the most gratifying work I have done has been with first time buyers who then say, you help us answer our questions and talk us off the ledge and help us understand the dynamics. And so with that, time and time again, I said, we need more agents to represent buyers. What is stopping agents? And a lot of times it's the limiting belief that people will pay for that service. And so over the course of my experience, I said, look, I see an opportunity to help other agents develop the skills they need to go out there to serve buyers at the highest level. And that's really what drove me. And it's one of those things where, honestly, I look back and said, you hear these stories about somebody created something, and it's nothing revolutionary, but it's kind of like, how would you feel if someone else does it and you had the idea and you didn't do it? And that
Right,
actually was
right.
what pushed me, was like, if I wake up and it doesn't work out, but I tried, great. But if someone else comes out with this and I'm sitting on my hands year in saying, oh, somebody should teach other agents how to be buying agents, and I never did it, I didn't want to sit with that feeling. And so it was, that was a lot of what drove me.
Well, and interesting, because I have been reflecting a lot lately. I'm not sure why, but just one of those seasons, and I am constantly amazed that, and maybe is what sets us apart as leaders in our industry and perhaps in our community as well. So for me, I I have the can-do attitude, because I have had to do that. I've had to do different jobs within my company, when the chips were down or we were shorthanded. I've had to do the hard work in real estate to make it happen. And for me, it's worked out at mostly. And um, I wonder, like, why don't other people do it? And why don't other people become leaders in something that they are good at? So talk to me just briefly about what pushed you? What was the driving force behind your decision to go forward with the academy? And think about that regret in the back of your mind. If it, if you didn't do it and somebody else did it, how would you feel? So what was the driving force for you?
Yeah, I think it's I think, so many people, comfort is the enemy of greatness, right? So we get a little too comfortable. I remember making the move, leaving the bank, right? And I was making, a nice six-figure salary. Everything was good. Life in DC was good. But then this opportunity came up. I knew I wanted to do something different. I thought I'd leave the bank and maybe do my own development deals, okay, in DC. I wasn't really looking to leave DC. But then the chips lined up. And what I knew was that this opportunity would get me out the door, right? Oh, by the way, it's London, but it would get me out the door from the bank and into a different space and working for this architectural firm, doing really interesting things. And oh, by the way, it's in London. And so I took that just like, here's an opportunity to try something different. And I remember telling myself, and I literally had to talk to myself. So maybe we need to talk to ourselves more. Um,
Yes. See,
and
and
I
have that reflection.
yeah,
Yeah.
that reflection. Like as a banker, I think you're trained to see risk in everything, right? Like, oh, all the reasons why something will fail. And you can get a little too comfortable and safe in that. But I do remember saying to myself, if you do this, you will be proud of yourself. And I really, again, maybe that comes back 10 years later when I launched, the Academy and Onyx. It was just do it, be proud of yourself. I could pick up my life in DC if I didn't like it. So I think sometimes, and I've heard it said, we catastrophize the worst case scenario while not giving ourselves enough credit that no matter what, we'll be okay. Right. So what if you do it now? What is that worst case scenario? Like, okay, I pick up my life in DC. I got a house. I got friends. I got a sofa to sleep on. My dad was like, you come back any minute, no matter what, no questions asked. So maybe we just need to give ourselves some grace to fail, but also recognizing that whatever so-called failure in air quotes is, you'll be okay. So why not try for something different? And I think that is part of the spirit I applied when it came to going out on my own. I literally started Onyx 2 years in, didn't know very many people in London, saw an opportunity, and again said to myself, what's the worst that can happen? I've got skills that are pretty transferable, having been a banker and a CFO now, that, okay, I can get another job, but here's a wonderful way to serve, do work that I love, that is fun. And maybe we need to apply the fun again. What's worth getting up for? And I tell you, that has been constantly the journey for me. I think I have a great morning routine. You got to put good things in your spirit. I start with prayer, meditation, a good inspirational quote, listening to great podcasts of inspiration and journeys, and recognizing that line is not a straight line. I think we're too often caught up. I'm born in Nigeria of immigrant parents. I'm an immigrant myself. We're just taught, go get a great education, great job, and just keep climbing as if it's so linear, right? As an entrepreneur, you learn rejection and failure and getting up, but you also can learn, boy, what if I put good things in my spirit? What if I'm surrounding myself with positive things that help me learn, oh, this is failing forward, or what did I learn from that experience, or what can I gain from it? And if you're showing up every day, I constantly say, I'm blessed to do work I love. Truly, every day, I'm blessed to do work I love. And that's what it comes up to. And so really, what are you excited about? Get up and do it and figure it out. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. And in any season in life or whatever you're going through, and I wrote a book a few years ago, and I titled it Starting from Scratch, because I felt like women in particular, any age, you can start from scratch and you can try something different, and you don't have to let your circumstances define you, whatever those circumstances are. I have an 85-year-old mother that when she was 80 during COVID, she went back to school
I bet.
and she got her associate's degree in college. Like, and my
Talk about
goodness, having
inspiration. Yeah.
yeah, talk about like starting from scratch and having the desire to, I'm going to go do it. That's just one example. But the other thing is, I know that you are a tennis player, correct?
Yes. Yes.
Yes, you love tennis. I grew up playing golf. We have so many things in common. I have to come to London. Since you've already been to Charlotte, I have to come. And um I grew up playing golf, and I in a time when girls and athletics, it was not popular.
Yeah.
So I I learned so many things coming up from playing golf. I started at the age of 10 or 11 and played in college. And now I play, once or twice a year when I'm fortunate enough for someone to invite me to play. Um, and I think being an athlete, don't you think, especially as a female, but men too, but we're talking you and I today, those qualities and characteristics carry you through your life because you have perseverance, you have dedication, you have, the drive to,
Competition. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So I feel like that is something that can set, girls apart is go out there and make something your own and learn from it and have a skill that takes you further down in your path. For you, I don't know how long have you been playing tennis? Did you just start or
No, it was, yeah. And actually, track was really my first sport. So I started running track at the age of 10 and then picked up tennis in high school. But,
yeah,
I think you're right. And, all of us, leadership, but girls, I think, do need, and no matter what, pick a sport, go out and do it as a young person because the things you are taught. But also, I've heard you say your mother and her, 80 going for her associate's degree. That
yeah,
didn't wake up doing that. Like she's got a personality streak, I'm
yeah,
sure, that demonstrated, you know, going out and doing things. And my mother was absolutely the same. She, started with nothing. And then her pushed my father, hustled. My father was the educated one. She wasn't. And they opened this first, Black owned pharmacy in Somerset County, New Jersey. So that was her. And she built
yeah.
her little real estate empire. So, and, just was fearless. And I think I had that, although I have three brothers. So again, but saw that female role model
Yes.
who was strong and bold and willing to failed a ton, but got up, dusted herself off, and always still had a heart of service for others. So I think there are some key things. I've had, physical struggles growing up. And I think, again, when you're in it, you don't understand why. But I do think it creates that tenacity, that resilience. And really, of all the characteristics I've heard, I think that resilience is everything because if you don't give up, there's no end, right? And that's what it has taught me in times of struggle and, just you got to pick yourself up and keep going.
You do. And real estate is a perfect way to do that because when you have a project, I firmly believe that a project keeps you going. And where there's a will, there's a way. And I'm so passionate about real estate, and I know you are too. I think it's the way to build your wealth. I think it's the way
Well, I
to
like
leave
that
a
no matter
legacy.
where people have made their money globally, right? And again, we work with a lot of high net worth clients. No matter where people have made their money, I cannot tell you one person who doesn't have real estate as part of their network. And so if you don't think that they're not doing that just for fun, they're doing it because
Right.
it makes sense. So I think you have to figure out a way to put some real estate. And then yeah, spending habits, saving habits, it can be done. Absolutely can be done.
Well, it can because you think about what we spend and I'm and as a business owner, I'm very cautious about that. My husband would probably disagree, but he's not here, so and, I know, and so, you think about these things, like, do you want, um, you know, instead of buying the designer handbag, that could be $2,000 or $3,000 that you could put towards, something else. And so it goes back to the choices that we make.
And the people you surround yourself with, I think, because if you are, especially as women, we have a danger. And I remember, just that comparison syndrome, right? So you want, look, I love a nice handbag, great shoes, and everything
Yes.
else.
Yeah, I
But
do
you
too.
also looked at, as you said, what are you willing to trade up? Because you can always find places to spend your money. And I think pretty quickly on, I learned the concept of interest and debt and, wasting money on paying things off on a credit card, right? And, the meal you ate 3 years ago, you're still paying for it in interest charges. It's just kind of like stop to think about that versus saving
Right.
and setting aside something. There's always, and what that does to your spirit, your ability to save. I think people underestimate the value of paying your self worth, what it even does for your psychology. Like you've got something set aside. I'm displaying some discipline in my life that no matter what, something is amassing for me.
Yes.
And I think that's super important.
Right. And you said something that I love that I'm trying to do more of, or consistent, let's just say be more consistent, is have that time in the morning of prayer, reflection, meditation, and gratitude, and get your mind set and right for the day, because there's so many distractions, whether it's kids or pets or social media or a to-do list that never ends. We have to get our mindset right, and we have to prepare for that day and what is important. And one thing that I'm learning to do is let some things go that are, how should we say it, like a time kill, and I find myself just scrolling sometimes, just scrolling my phone and looking and searching. And then I'm like, what am I searching for? What am I looking for, that this is nothing, like I'm looking at things to buy, and like, like we just talked about, you just get sucked into what the world, has to offer and wants you to do. And those kinds of things can take us away from the goals at hand, i.e. the real estate and the investing. And for us, we feel that, and I know you feel the same way, real estate is never going to go out of style. It's always going to be here, because why? Well, people need a place to live, whether they rent or own, and they're not making any more land. So, why not invest in what people need? It's a perfect thing. So, what would you say if somebody wants to do it? Like, okay, I heard Ugo and Shelly talk and I'm ready to go. What's the first thing that they should do to prepare for this journey of real estate investor or home ownership?
Yeah, I think perhaps one of the first things you can do is talk to a mortgage advisor, because I think if you talk to somebody like that, they'll at least tell you where you're starting from, right? And we work with clients sometimes a year and a half in advance. So somebody might contact me saying, "Hey, I've always wanted to buy in London. What is it going to take?" And the first thing I say is, "Let me introduce you to a mortgage advisor," because at least you're starting from someplace. And if you know where you want to get to, you also have to know where you're starting from, right? So even if they give you the worst, information or assessment that says you have no savings, you're not making enough, blah, blah, blah. Okay, fine. That is your starting place. Now, what can it take to change that? And we talked a bit about the saving. So again, this is not rocket science. And they say, it's simple but not easy. Okay. So now somebody's told you you're going to need a minimum of $50,000 to make your first investment. Fine. How long is it going to take you? And what does it take? And then you chunk it down. So 50,000 might feel overwhelming. You're never going to get there. But how much could you save in 1 year? Okay. How much you could save in a given month? Okay. Start there. How often are you getting paid? Start there. So I think that's where, again, it comes down to, by even just creating that savings plan, you are going to feel good that you know the direction in which you are going and you're taking the steps to get there. Then again, I mentioned on YouTube, how much time do we actually invest in educating ourselves on things before we go and do it? If you, again, start listening to, watching YouTube, you're going to find people in that universe who are going to give you information. You're going to learn stuff. You're going to ask, they're going to be Facebook groups. There's so many communities in which you get inspired, and you're surrounding yourself with the right people. A lot of times people might do deals together, right? Maybe your very first one might be an investment in someone else's deal, and then you get your equity back, and then you can take it. And that is now, the basis to do the next deal. Again, do your due diligence, but I challenge myself in that, when people give up on stuff, they need to really ask themselves, have you really done everything you could have done? If you do, you should actually feel pretty good, because then it's like,
Right.
it wasn't meant to be. I
Yeah,
really end on
I
heart.
tried.
I've done everything. I have tried. You can sleep well at night. But so often, if we're really being honest, we haven't done everything. We just did the stuff we wanted to do. We didn't do the other stuff. So I work with a coach who's like, you need to be calling every single day. Blah, blah. Do I always do that? No, I don't. So until I get to that point where I can say, hand on heart, I have done everything for a reasonable amount of time, and it still didn't work. Now let's change and do something different. I think I find for myself, and I think many of us, fall into this, we chase too many shiny objects. We want the easy solution, yet the thing to do is in front of us. We kind of already know. We just don't want to do it, or we want to find a version that somebody says, oh, I did it the easy way, blah, blah, blah. And believe you me, people will tell you on the internet all day long, the overnight classes. Dig deeper, do your education, track people, get the real story, get mentoring, get coaching, put yourself in WhatsApp groups where people are giving the real deal. Sorry, not WhatsApp group, Facebook groups. Invest in yourself, truly. And I think if you start there, you will find, one of my quotes is like, take the next small step. Just do that. And then the next one we'll figure out, and the next one. And don't get overwhelmed with the big number. Chunk it down, bring it back to what's the next thing I can do next week? Okay, maybe it's just to put myself in a Facebook group. Oh, maybe it's to, read 3 blogs about real estate investing a month or something like that. Those things are going to start leading you into other places where the next natural step, I think, will reveal itself.
Well, I agree. And I think that you said earlier about who are we hanging around? Who are our friends? Who are the people that are influencing us? And you're right. Hang around people that are, maybe some of them are smarter than you, and that's okay. Maybe they have more than, what you have. Learn from them. Learn
They
from
say
them. And
success leaves clues, and so you want to be learning from people who've done it, the version of what you want, and then they'll tell you what it
yes.
is.
Right, exactly. And, go from there and start small, because I think so many times we get that overwhelming feeling of, I can't do it. I don't want to do it. I don't have time, because we just don't know where to start. But you have to start somewhere, and you hit the nail on the head. Start small and then build yourself up from there, because real estate is not going away, and take your time. It's always a good time to buy a house. I don't care what people say. Buy the house. You can date the rate and figure it out later, but just do it. Just do it.
Absolutely. I'm totally with that. And you're going to fail, you're going to learn, you're going to make mistakes. And that's okay too. I think that is, again, we need to get more comfortable with being uncomfortable, and that everything isn't going to go exactly the right way. But also, what's the mindset you're showing up with? I think so often the stories we tell ourselves are ones of negativity. And they say, was it Henry Ford or something? Whether you think you can or you think you can, either way, you're right, right? So it's the stories you tell yourself. If you're looking for reasons why you can do this, they will show up. If you're looking for all the reasons why you can't do it, they will show up as well.
Yes. Yes. Well, and what kind of trends are, I'm just so intrigued about London, and what are you seeing that's different in the UK than it is in the United States? Are you seeing anything? Or are you seeing similarities?
Well, I think
Or
we've got more opportunities in the US. I think that it's harder here just because, for example, in America, you have 30-year fixed mortgages. We don't. We might have 2, 3, 5-year fixed mortgages. So we are much more exposed to interest rate variability, which will definitely impact, right, your return on investment. So all my properties in America, 30-year fixed, my tenants pay my mortgage. I don't have to think a lot about it. So again, I think that's a big difference. The other big difference, we have, a concept of stamp duty, which is a tax on purchase. So imagine your agreed purchase price is 500,000, and then you have to pay an additional 3% on top of that you can't mortgage. So our finances make things more challenging. But I think what is good about London, it's an international global city, where people will always want to be, right? Talk about, a New York, a London, a Singapore, Hong Kong. It's very difficult to build new product, right? So you
right,
have a supply demand fundamentals that are typically in your favor, right? Because you can't just go out and build because there's not acres and acres of undeveloped land. So I think that makes things good. But we definitely have our challenges. We used to have a very strong appreciation, like the market was doubling every 10 years. That has corrected due to Brexit and COVID and cost of living and Ukraine and all these things. So you have to be prepared to play the long game. I think if you're looking for a flip situation, this is not the market for it. But it is fundamentally, a great global city to invest in. It's a great gateway to other European cities. So I was talking to a potential client out of LA yesterday, and they like to come to London because they know it's a jumping off point to get into the rest of Europe. So look at your fundamentals, but and be ready to adapt. I think you have to see. But I do think what I'm offering through the Buyer Agency Academy is recognizing there's an opportunity for agents to expand their business to serve buyers and to really educate buyers and support buyers in a way that typically they're not being supported right now. So
right.
that's another good opportunity.
And you have a lot of expertise because you have the experience of here and there as well. And you've also, what I love is you have lived it. You've done it. You have talked the talk and you have walked the walk as well. And if somebody wanted to research your academy or participate, what would they do?
So you can find us on thebuyeragencyacademy.com. So if you get to that website, you'll see details about the course and things like that. But if you want to learn more about me, I'm on all the social media channels, whether it's as my name, Ugo Arinzeh, or Onyx Property Team. If you Google either one of those, I have a very active YouTube channel where I put out weekly videos. I think if you really, lead from a place of serving and how can you help other people, you will attract the right people. So I think if you believe in that and being a guide or a steward or a servant of helping buyers, that also resonates quite strongly. So if you like to be in a relationship with people, I think being a buying agent is a wonderful place to do it because you really get to hold people's hand through typically what can be very challenging chapters of their lives, whether it's divorce or relocation or downsizing. I like to say you start off as clients, you end up as friends, hopefully, if you're doing it well. And that's a beautiful thing. I like to collect people along the way.
Right, exactly. Because sometimes people are buying a home for not the happiest of reasons. They have to for different reasons, not necessarily because they want to. And that is so important. And you do form a relationship. I've seen that firsthand with our sales team and, the lengths that they go to see that the house closes and what they can do for the person. And you're right. It's such having a servant heart is just so important because when you do it for the right reason it does make such a big difference. And I have loved our time today. You are just amazing, and we have so many different things that we can talk about. So I'm definitely going to have you back on.
I would love that.
And
Awesome.
before we go, I have to ask you, what are your top 3 things that you love about London that would make me want to come?
Um, I think absolutely if you love, history, come for that. If you love, I tell me the oldest building you might know in the US. I don't know. Your eyes like, oh, it was built in the 1800s. Well, we'll have buildings built in the 1600s or the 1400s. So with such detail. So I think that's what's really spectacular about London. I think it's a great walking city as well. Truly. We've got the Thames, which is the river, and there's so much to discover. I think it's got fantastic energy. Okay. So if you want to come and explore, have great food, have great things to do, it is endless. One of the little bookmarks I have is a famous quote that says, when a man tires of London, he's tired of life. And I think that London, it really epitomizes that spirit, that there's endless things to discover and do. So please, Shelly, commit to coming and I will show you a great time, really.
I would love to. And my husband, we have a joke that he loves to read the monuments. So I think he would very
Well,
much
lose his mind.
appreciate.
Yes, yes, yes. He will absolutely lose his mind. My friend teases me, you've never met a church you didn't like. And I love churches and old buildings and
Yes,
like, always look up and see what the ceiling is doing. So
yes. Oh, okay. I'm coming. It's an easy flight from Charlotte, and I'm gonna have that adventuresome spirit and make my plan. Make my plan and then work my plan. Thank you so much. Thank you. I
it's
appreciate it.
been such a pleasure and I really appreciate your energy and what you're doing to help so many of us get to tell our stories. So really appreciate the podcast and what you're doing as well, Shelly.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's stay in touch.
Bye.
This has been Keys to Change with Shelly Henderson. Remember, it's never too late to unlock your real estate potential. To discover more inspiring stories and invaluable resources, visit us at shellylhenderson.com. Your journey to a thriving real estate investment starts here.